Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Empowered podcast. Listen to this brand new episode of the series to get a fresh perspective on leadership, growth, and excellence from some of the brilliant minds of inspiring Mphasians. To speak with us today, we have Vassilis Constantopoulos. Hi, Vassilis. Great to have you here. Do tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, and thank you for having me on this podcast. My name is Vassilis, and I'm the general manager of the high-tech business at Mphasis. I've been here about 5 years now, and very much look forward to the discussion.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us here. So today, Vassilis, we wanted to focus a little bit on the principles that organizations abide by and value. And we know that for Mphasis, one such principle is Mphasis First. So could you tell us a little bit about this and tell us why it's important?
Certainly. And indeed, I think that the Mphasis First principle is something that's extremely important and the foundation of a lot of the things that we do. It's about prioritizing Mphasis collective interest over individual requirements. And I think where this is coming from a little bit is, and I have seen this a lot in my life in working with multiple clients, there's something highly beneficial to the overall organization that can be done. However, this does not align with individual priorities. And so nobody takes the effort to do what is right for the organization as a whole, and things fall through the cracks. So the way we accomplish this at Mphasis is that we actively promote, highlight, and reward employees to aspire to this principle. And I most certainly have never seen anyone in my tenure here getting in trouble for putting Mphasis first. It's all about going above and beyond and doing what's ultimately right.
Right. That sounds very interesting. So you took us through how this principle operates on an organizational level. But if we were to dive a little further into the principle, could you elaborate for us how it really works on a micro or individual level?
Sure. Perhaps best way would be to explain this with an example. And traditionally, in the type of companies in our industry, there's been a well-documented friction between sales and delivery departments. It's functions that tend to be performed by different teams, and sometimes I've seen this in some of our industry peers. There's an us versus them mentality that tends to develop. If you only focus on your individual KPIs, then you're not going to help out essentially your business partner. And there's all kinds of challenges around credit being accurately given and then hard lines. What I have seen at Mphasis is that instead we focus on the collective growth. And I think that's true for all companies in this industry, that sales will not be successful without a solid delivery. And then delivery can only do their job right when we have sold the right type of deals and so forth. So as we support each other, we also help the greater good of Mphasis. I have seen multiple times delivery people closing deals, helping promote those deals, and working extra long hours to make them happen. But then also conversely, I have seen many salespeople working on that client relationship angle, making sure that current projects are green, stay green, get delivered on time, because they also understand that ultimately it will help themselves in their function and Mphasis as a whole.
That sounds extremely inspiring and very insightful. And it's good to know that it looks like every individual is motivated by something more, as you said, than just achieving their own narrow KPIs. Could you now take us through how you and your team have embraced this, the Mphasis First principle?
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely would attribute this as being one, if not the most important pillar of our success here at High Tech. We've been, for the last few years, in a very high growth environment. And we had some very ambitious aspirations. We need to rapidly set up accounts, define a micro offering, work on our infrastructure, processes, and so forth. So there was really a lot to do as we scaled the business about 4x in 4 years. And that would not have been possible without a lot of people wearing some morning hats and evening hats in terms of roles, helping out wherever they saw a need to, irrespective of whether that was strictly in their definition of duties, and above all, helping each other out. And as we're doing this, we also approached multiple people in other departments within Mphasis to get introductions, some of their contacts, help us with some of the artifacts we need to build, and so forth. So in a way, we crowdsourced a lot of our activities. And it's been very humbling and inspiring to see how everybody jumped in to help. And to this day, I cannot think of somebody refusing to help, again, irrespective of whether something was strictly part of their duties or not.
Right. I loved how you called it the morning and the evening hat. Wow, it sounds fantastic. This brings me to ask you my next question, which is, how do you really go about ensuring that these values and the culture of Mphasis First are really inculcated in the employees, especially the new hires?
That's a great question. And as a matter of fact, I'd say this is something that's an absolute top of mind issue for me, because I alluded to the rapid growth we've had. A consequence of this rapid growth, since we're in an industry where revenue grows pretty linearly with headcount, we've had a lot of new people have joined Mphasis. Transmitting this culture that has made us successful, I think, is a very fundamental piece of what will continue to make us successful, or will become a challenge if we don't achieve to permeate this culture across the organization. This is further compounded, if you think about it, by the fact that we have a lot of people working remotely or in hybrid mode, which naturally reduces some of the intimate interactions that they have with their co-workers in an office environment and what have you. How do we go about this? I think a very important part is how we each behave. If people see this behavior in their leaders, they're likely to emulate it. If they see their leaders saying something and doing something else, then obviously that's not going to work. So first and foremost is our own behaviors, but also is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, we very actively promote and highlight those positive behaviors, and we need to not lose track of that and continue to look out for these behaviors and highlight them and reward them when we see them happen.
Wow, right. From what you're saying, it looks like setting an excellent example for everybody around you is your and your team's way of implementing this principle. Throughout our conversation, I've noticed that you've mentioned how Mphasis First is about going above and beyond for the clients. And I imagine that this is something that your clients have noticed and appreciated too.
100%. And it really is a differentiator for us compared to our industry peers. The one important aspect of Mphasis First is that we also put our clients' needs first, because ultimately what's good for our clients is good for Mphasis. So the best way to promote Mphasis is to have happy and successful clients. And in that process, we will break boundaries, we'll do whatever we need to do internally to do what's right for the clients. And you see that reflected time and again in the congratulatory notes and thank you notes that we're getting from our clients. They often highlight how our people go above and beyond to help them, and that is something that they don't always see. And to give you an extreme example, we've even had a couple of people working for competitors, but working for the same client that we do, sending our Mphasis guys congratulatory notes or applauding them for their excellent work and for going beyond the scope of duty. And if you think about it, that is truly impressive and inspiring when your performance is so good that even your competitor publicly acknowledges it.
Absolutely. I can imagine. It's a very rare and valuable organizational trait. This brings us to the end of our podcast, Vassilis, and it's been so great talking to you and learning so much more about the Mphasis First principle from your experience. Thank you so much for your time and for being part of this podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me on the show.
We will be back with another episode of the Empowered podcast to take a look at a different EVP principle very soon. So stay tuned.